Well, it's great to meet you here in London.
Great to meet you too.
There is a lot of hype around blockchain. When do you
I
believe?
hadn't noticed, really? Is that true?
When do you believe we will reach a tipping point for real-world applications?
Tipping point for real-world applications. So, if you take a look at how the World Wide Web technologies evolved, they were essentially invented in 1990 and ramified for the consumer towards the end of that decade. In the meantime, we saw intranets being taken up by corporations because they loved the technology, but they didn't think the internet was safe or secure or scalable, really, at that time. And so we're seeing the same thing at ConsenSys. We are doing a tremendous amount of work to foster adoption for consumers, but things are going gangbusters with enterprise and government.
Yes.
So we're about 160 people now around the world. Half of us are doing product, so we're doing things like identity and reputation systems and governance tools and crowdfunding systems and token issuance tools and etc. But on the enterprise consulting side, we're besieged by companies and governments that want us to build software for them. The hype is well-founded. Last year we did lots of POCs. We thought this year would be mostly POCs, but really turns out we're doing some pilots to production systems as well.
That's great. And in terms of the kind of changing the power structures between government, between organizations and consumers, do you believe are we there yet? And what is needed kind of to change that part of the economy?
Yeah, we're clearly not there yet, but there's a lot of awareness. There's been a lot of trust lost over the last few decades, especially more recently, fake news, identity theft, etc. So consumers are becoming aware of the fact that they're not in control of their data, their identity, financial, health information, etc. And so on that front, I think we're going to see greater awareness. It's still, the vast percentage of the population doesn't care about these issues, yes. But these issues are becoming more prominent for more people. So we at ConsenSys have built an identity system on public blockchain, on the Ethereum public blockchain, that essentially implements what we and many other people are calling self-sovereign identity. So you can establish your identity on the blockchain. You don't need an identity provider to do that for you, yet you can make use of legacy identity providers like government agencies and banks to lodge a cryptographic attestation on either your identity or documents that you've uploaded into your identity container on the blockchain. And basically link your blockchain-based identity, which allows you to log into decentralized applications or just normal applications without username and password, and also link that to the legacy infrastructure so that in their eyes this blockchain-based identity can be used in regular old systems. So one of the first steps towards decentralizing systems.
So do you believe that individuals are that individuals have to be in charge of their own data and they have to decide how this data has been shared, stored, and used?
So I don't believe individuals have to be in charge or have to decide. I believe they should be given the opportunity to be in charge, and we are building them tools to enable that. So our Uport identity system serves as a blockchain-based container for reputational attributes, so that can be government documentation, but also attestations, so things that people say about you or your conduct in different kinds of transactions like buying and selling or lending, borrowing, repaying, or working together on a software development project. And so these things are encrypted, selectively disclosable totally under the control of the user. So you can upload your financial data, you can upload your health data. With respect to your financial data, if you want to disclose a bunch of that to a lender, let's say it's for a micro loan on a blockchain-based platform like our Ether loan system, then you can choose to disclose as much of that as you want. And you can disclose as much of the information that indicates that you're a real person, not a spoof, not a sybil. And so you might, if you're getting a loan, want to disclose the fact that you have other kinds of elements, attributes, attestations that indicates that you are a real, this thing that looks like a real person that happens to control this identity on the blockchain, and that just reduces the risk in putting money into your crowdfunding project or lending you money.
Yes. So as you said, you also work in this big organization, this government. Do you believe that technology such as Ethereum and other decentralized technologies will allow the shift of the power to individuals, even though you're dealing with government or other organizations directly?
Yeah, so it's going to take time before we have the infrastructure to decentralize all the things, and geographical, regional relationships and boundaries they do make sense. Certainly geographical regions need to coordinate themselves to deal with certain physical things. And so we're building tools that enable governments to become more efficient, that enable companies to be more efficient, that enable, let's say, a bank to enable their customer to retain their data, to hang on to the elements of their identity and disclose certain things, or just answer certain questions about those things without disclosing the actual data, like, are you over 25? Do you have an income over $200,000, something like that. And so this is great for the banks because it can de-risk their situation. Similar for healthcare companies, also better for the user because they don't become a product that gets sold over and over by Facebook and a million different advertising systems.
When you talked about legacy system and integration with legacy system, do you believe that blockchain technology itself can become part of the legacy systems of the future?
To some degree, well, the legacy systems of the future, or integrated with legacy systems as we move forward. Yes. So to some degree, yes, we can do that. But in a bunch of the work that we're doing with organizations, we're essentially building new systems, either greenfield systems or new systems that can replace legacy systems. So with BHP Billiton, they drill holes in the ground, searching for oil and natural gas. They pull up extremely valuable rock and water and oil, and instead of tracking that stuff with plastic bags, Excel spreadsheets, etc., notes scribbled on labels on the plastic bags, they can track it in a more sophisticated system that enables not just BHP Billiton, but also other actors in the space that are independent, like regulators, like analytical labs, like custodians, like transportation companies, to interact in that value chain. And so what we're doing there is standing up a parallel system, and what we've advised and are doing in other places is standing up parallel systems so that this legacy system that doesn't work quite as well, doesn't enable collaboration quite as easily, can be replaced as the better system becomes accepted by the people and more mature. So, similar to a bank, the banks are probably not going to have any current 12-year-olds as customers. I think the nature of money, the nature of custodying your own assets is going to change, yet there will still be the need to offer financial services, and existing banks many of them will be around to do that same thing for today's 12-year-olds. But start building that parallel business for the younger cohorts, even while you're still serving the older cohorts in the ways that they're comfortable with.
So basically blockchain will allow us to change the economic models and the existing players within the ecosystem will have to adapt or die
absolutely.
out.
Yeah, Netflix emailed CDs for a long time.
Yeah.
Before they, evolved to what they really wanted to do.
Well, we had other examples in Blockbuster and many other companies.
For sure. Yeah.
And for the future, do you believe that blockchain and cryptocurrency will kind of still be linked together in the future, and it will allow us to create new business models not possible in the past, or they will become more separated because of the regulatory framework in certain jurisdictions?
So with respect to public blockchains, public permissionless blockchains, you absolutely do need a crypto economic component to secure the systems. Nobody I know or have ever spoken to thinks that there's a way to have public permissionless systems without the economic incentives of having a cryptographic currency associated with it. That said, blockchain is probably best thought of as a next generation database system. And so when you have essentially a database infrastructure that can enable all users, all actors on the system to directly observe the data, in Ethereum's case, to directly observe the smart contracts or the executable programs that are resident on the blockchain. That enables everybody on the system, whether their agendas are in sync or competitive, to trust the same shared infrastructure. And so that kind of system, something we've been calling veridical computing, or computing of or pertaining to the truth, can serve as redundancy-free shared infrastructure for entire industries, really. So this is really valuable for companies who you can view as microcosms of economies, because they have cooperating and competing elements internally. They're all feeding from the same budget, and they should all be making sure each department is behaving properly. It's also true across companies in the same industry. As you have these value chains, supply chain provenance, etc., it's incredibly valuable to reduce the current redundancy in information systems throughout industries. There will be no reason in the future for Deutsche Bank and UBS and Bank of America to all have, the same, multiple sets of the same core banking infrastructure, because they also rolled up different banks and they're keeping all those things parallel. They should all be able to interoperate on a shared infrastructure that is scalable, and that's going to happen for Ethereum within 2 to 3 years, and going to keep growing more scalable, and that is configurably private and confidential, and that's already happening. We already have an architecture that does that, and it's going to get better.
Very interesting. Well, when you talk about interoperability,
and by the way, those private permission blockchain systems, they don't need a cryptocurrency in order to secure them, because you have a strong governance model. You can, rely on the fact that you can kick somebody out of the consortium.
When you talk about interoperability and systems talking to each other, some of the companies and consultancies are technology agnostic. And obviously, ConsenSys is betting on one particular technology, Ethereum. Do you believe that in the future there will be place only for one blockchain, public, permissionless blockchain, or there will be multiple players and they will have to talk to each other?
So our view of the medium-term blockchain space is any significant company has its own blockchain. It puts business processes on that. Its customers, its vendor service providers, its employees all have secure access to it. So every transaction against the infrastructure is cryptographically authenticated, granularly authorized for a particular business process. The minute you have a use case where you have a counterparty that's another company that doesn't want to use your infrastructure, you can set up a partner or a consortium blockchain, and you can now start to grow consortia with only 2 counterparties and 1 use case, and you can add more and more of both and build these consortia bottom up, grassroots, much easier than building them top down. And virtually every significant company will also very soon, when Ethereum can support it, have use cases on public permissionless blockchain. With respect to public permissionless, there's really only one decentralized application platform that's currently viable, and in my opinion, it has a very big lead. There is the need to do lots of exploration to try to map out the solution space, and it's very early days for blockchain, and so there are many different efforts to build new blockchain systems. So some of them will probably gain some traction. Ethereum will be able to absorb some of that technology, but who knows? There may be something that Ethereum just misses and betters Ethereum by quite a bit. We'll see.
When we talk about adoption of blockchain technology, do you believe that at the moment we have a consensus about moving in the direction of decentralization, direction of using distributed ledger technologies, using smart contracts? When we talk about the major players, let's say in insurance, in banking, do you have feeling that it's already happening and the direction has been set for the next 5-10 years?
We are coming from a world, we're still in a world where companies, governments, information systems are all siloed, okay? They're siloed because they're built on a database technology that pretty much forces that. Yes. We're moving from an era in which companies have to build their own information systems to an era in which industries can build their own information systems. So that's a really profound change for information technology. With respect to the major platforms that companies and governments are doing that on right now, there really are two major ones. At least there are a couple smaller, more proprietary ones. There's Hyperledger, which is basically an IBM-driven project, but there are other companies in that particular group, including our company, ConsenSys, and there's Ethereum. So Ethereum has done a brilliant job at building the strongest technology and solving the hardest problems in the hardest context. It's also done the best job at attracting the interest of developers, which in my opinion is the only thing that matters. We've got a developer tool called Truffle that has seen 55,000 downloads. So we're in the lead on that front. I also argue that, as I indicated before, any significant company in the near future, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe a little more even for some companies, will want to have a use case on public blockchain, just like virtually every company has moved to the internet when it was possible to do so. So there is only one public blockchain that's viable for that, and I would argue that if you are building blockchain-based systems for your customer on a technology that doesn't support this migration potentially to public permissionless blockchain, you're doing your customer a disservice, because you're standing up a tech stack for them. They're training, they're gaining a lot of expertise in using that tech stack. They're building an infrastructure on top of that, and one day, relatively soon, they're going to want to put something on public blockchain, and they're going to be like, we need an Ethereum stack, we need to develop expertise in these pieces of our infrastructure, we're going to need to rewrite.
Some people call it Internet of Value. Would you agree with this statement, or you would like to add something?
Internet of Value, Internet of Trust, Internet of Agreements, Internet of Identities. So we're moving from a client-server architecture for the World Wide Web, Web 2.0 basically, to a peer-to-peer architecture where 99% of people aren't going to know that they're using blockchain under the covers. They're just going to know that they can do cool things on open platforms and end-sided markets, and they're not going to need Mark Zuckerberg in the middle mediating their social transactions.
And when we talk about information systems, they're also not technological systems, but also social systems. So blockchain innovation has been mostly technologically driven so far. Do you believe that it's going to change and people from other industries would be more active in kind of flavoring the blockchain innovation and moving towards and achieving specific goals which are their objective?
More social goals?
Not sort of more social, but sort of not purely technologically driven, but driven by the needs in a particular industry or idea.
We certainly have a lot of people who have a solution and they're looking for a problem. And that's what we were doing in the early days to some degree.
Yeah.
But really we've spoken with over 1,000 companies at this point, and all of them have lots of problems that benefit from the blockchain solution. So I think it's being less technologically driven right now. At least on the enterprise consulting side of things, and more solution driven. And I would say our products are somewhat technologically driven because we have this vast space that we can explore with this new technology, and we're just trying to figure out all the cool things we can do and figure out whether we can find customers that find value in that.
Yeah. Which is a good thing for now. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And when we talk about government, about bureaucracies, about democracy, do you believe that blockchain can help us to build a more transparent society? And if yes, do we have to be careful with the systems which we are building? Because if we try to digitalize bureaucracy, it just becomes a digital bureaucracy and doesn't really help us to change anything that we have right now. So in that respect, how blockchain technology is different from any other database technology, for example?
Sure. So we're building a bunch of products that will contribute to transparency and potentially democracy. So we're building a general ledger system that will enable blockchain-based companies to track non-repudiably, transparently their financial transactions. So if it's a charity, Red Cross, we're spending time with the former president of Haiti, Laurent Lemaitre, and he described their dismay at how the Red Cross raised maybe $500 million. I forget what the number was, and they had trouble asking for the last $1 million, and they finally said, okay, just keep your money. So charities can use transparent financing, and you can trust it. Companies will be able to do that once two companies have their books on the blockchain, their double entry books on the blockchain. They can use our general ledger system to basically create a third entry, essentially mapping one transaction from one ledger to another transaction. And regulators that we speak to are very excited about this because they'll be able to track flows. It'll be very hard to perpetrate fraud in a situation like that, because if maybe we move to a regulatory infrastructure where all accounting has to be done on a blockchain, and regulators have to have a view on that. So that gets us to a point where you can do real-time comprehensive auditing on your books, real-time risk metrics and sensitivity analyses. Regulators can have a dashboard showing them the flows within a company, only appropriate information that they should see, showing them flows in a sector or a geographical region. So that's just the financial side. With respect to voting, we built a tool called Boardroom that enables governance of different projects, and currently we have 14 different rule sets that you can choose. Essentially, Boardroom enables you to add members to your organization, and then the members can table proposals and then vote on the proposals using either tokens or just straight up voting mechanisms. And we've implemented a bunch of different voting schemes. So one of those schemes is liquid democracy. So you can potentially non-repudiably, transparently have votes conducted on the blockchain. If you think you're an expert, you can place your vote yourself. If you think your friend Steve is an expert, you can delegate your vote to Steve, and you can run a democratic organization that way. There's quadratic voting mechanisms that are interesting that people are experimenting with. There's disclosed identity and reputation. So Yeah, there are going to be some complicated situations that we run into initially, but I think we're building a better infrastructure for reducing fraud, for reducing identity theft, etc.
Do you believe in a killer application for a blockchain for the next year, or you believe that we will see a number of different applications in different industries which would get momentum as we grow?
Sure. So we've had this discussion about killer app for blockchain for so long. First, Bitcoin was a killer app. Decentralized money systems is a killer app. For Ethereum, decentralized trust is a killer app. Being able to create trustless or veridical agreements between people. A killer, rather than a killer app, a killer foundational element is identity. And as we put our Uport system out into the world and enable the use of lots of different reputation systems, though that's going to be a killer application that many different projects can use. So our poker platform, our prediction markets platform, our governance tool, so many different third-party applications that might want to use our reputation systems and our identity system. They're all going to be able to use that thing. So maybe the killer element of Ethereum is synergy. So we're putting all these computations, these programmatic elements out on a blockchain, and it's the world computer or a world computer, and everybody can permissionlessly interact with these things, provided you have permission for certain applications. These systems can essentially build upon one another. So we can build a whole set of layers of functionality based on components that many different people or companies are building, and they're all sitting in the same execution space.
What is the most exciting part of your work, of ConsenSys, of Ethereum? What do you like the most?
Doing blog interviews.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.